Hey there, and welcome. We're doing a deep dive today, one that's tailored just for you.
Yeah, hi everyone. We've got this interesting set of documents here all about C9PT Ltd.
That's right, focusing on their product and SaaS development work, and specifically how it relates to the Australian market.
And our goal today is pretty straightforward. Cut through these sources, pull out what's really essential, and help you understand, what's most important about how C9 approaches things.
Exactly. So if you're listening in Australia, maybe a business owner or a C-level exec,
Yeah,
and you're trying to figure out custom software or SaaS, how it can help you succeed digitally.
then this should be really helpful.
We hope so. It's about getting you informed quickly using these specific C9 sources as our guide. I'm Lex,
And I'm Vera.
and you're listening to the C9 Podcast Show. Let's jump in.
Okay, so first off, looking through this material, what really stands out is how C9 presents itself.
Yeah.
They're not just saying, we build software. It's much more strategic than that.
Right. They position themselves as innovation partners. Is that the idea?
Right.
Thinking strategically.
Exactly. Dedicated to, digital success for their clients. The mission seems to be about taking those visionary ideas.
And turning them into actual market-leading products. Not just functional, but successful.
Precisely. Engineering for impact, like you said.
And a huge part of that, woven through all the source material, is this intense focus on Australia.
Oh, absolutely. They state it very clearly. Their team has a, quoting here, deep understanding of the unique challenges and opportunities within the Australian business landscape.
And that's framed as a major plus, a differentiator. Why should you care?
Well, the implication is clear.
Yeah. The sources suggest it helps ensure the solutions they build actually work, here. For local businesses, for Australian users.
They talk about analyzing things like local market trends, Australian user needs, and your business objectives.
All geared towards giving you that competitive edge, specifically within Australia.
And they don't just say Australia. They mention specific cities: Sydney, Melbourne, Perth, Adelaide.
Right, which kind of grounds it. It shows they're thinking nationwide, within the country. It's not just a generic pitch.
Definitely tailored.
Okay, so that's the identity strategic partner, strong Aussie focus. What about what they actually do? The services.
Well, the sources lay out a really comprehensive list. It covers basically the entire product journey.
From the very start, like the idea stage.
Yeah. Strategic product conceptualization, that's where it begins. Then it moves through flexible, agile development,
Okay.
scalable architecture design. We'll probably talk more about that later.
Sounds okay.
Australian user-centric design, so that local focus again. Seamless integration and API development. And then, crucially, ongoing support and continuous improvement.
So end to end, really.
Yeah.
Concept to launch and beyond.
That's the picture painted here. And the technical scope mentioned is pretty broad.
What are the numbers?
The sources mention 45 plus services and working with over 100 plus technologies.
Wow, okay. So what does that actually mean for you, the listener?
Well, it suggests they have the technical chops, right? They
Yeah.
can likely handle whatever stack you're using or need.
Like specific languages or platforms?
Yeah, they mention things like .NET, React, PHP, cloud platforms like AWS, Azure, different databases, MS SQL, MySQL, MongoDB.
And integrations, like with payment systems or accounting software.
Exactly. PayPal, Stripe, Xero are listed. That breadth suggests they're equipped for complex projects.
Okay, so they offer a lot. How do they actually build these things? What's their process like?
The sources really highlight their development approach. Agile is front and center.
Which makes sense for flexibility.
Right, but they tie it back to the local context again. There's a quote like, "This adaptive approach allows us to respond swiftly to evolving requirements and the dynamic Australian market."
Ah, so Agile isn't just a buzzword. It's positioned as necessary for this specific market.
That seems to be the angle. Being nimble for Australian conditions.
What else stands out in their approach?
Scalability and having a robust architecture. They're very clear about building solutions designed to grow.
Future-proofing it from the start.
Yeah, the source says they architect robust and scalable solutions that can grow seamlessly with your Australian business. So handling more users, more features down the track.
And you mentioned user-centric design earlier, specifically for Australia.
Yep, it keeps popping up. Prioritizing the Australian user experience, the UX UI, is presented as absolutely vital for getting people to actually use and like the software here.
Makes sense. And integrations. making sure it plays nice with existing tools.
That's another key point. Seamless integration with what businesses here already use.
And it doesn't just stop when the product goes live.
Apparently not. The sources emphasize ongoing support, continuous refinement.
Based on feedback from actual Australian users.
Exactly. Closing that loop.
Okay, now, you mentioned something earlier. This is where the sources get, perhaps, a bit more distinctive. Something beyond just standard development.
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting. The material talks about a strategic framework that, and I'm quoting again, transcends conventional SaaS implementation.
Transcends conventional. Okay, what does that mean?
It sounds like it's about thinking bigger than just the software itself. They talk about a market-centric methodology.
Aimed at what?
Aimed at turning your vision into sustainable revenue. So,
Yeah.
very business-focused.
Right, not just features, but revenue.
And they have specific names for these frameworks. There's the market leadership architecture.
Okay, break that down. Market leadership architecture.
Think of it as engineering the software's foundation, not just to work, but to actually dominate its market niche.
How? Oh, what goes into
The
things?
sources list things like deep competitive analysis being part of the process, building what they call revenue-optimized infrastructure right from the start.
Meaning the tech itself is designed to make money.
That seems to be the implication. Also, built-in analytics so you have the data immediately, and an architecture that's engineered for scalability from day one.
And the benefit of doing all that up front.
The sources claim measurable advantages. Things like getting to market faster because the strategy is baked in,
Yeah.
lower customer acquisition costs, presumably because the product fits the market better, enhanced customer lifetime value,
Yeah.
operational efficiency. It positions the software as a strategic weapon, almost.
Interesting. And there was another one.
Yeah, the strategic scaling architecture.
Yeah.
So if market leadership is about winning initially,
This is about keeping that success going long term. Sustainable growth.
that's the idea. This framework uses things like cloud-native infrastructure building specifically for the cloud,
Right.
multi-tenant efficiency, which is vital for SaaS, automated provisioning,
Yeah.
performance monitoring.
Microservices. I've heard that term.
Yeah, building with smaller independent components makes it easier to update, more resilient. Plus things like geographic expansion capability built in and load balancing for handling traffic.
So it sounds like they're really contrasting this with maybe a more basic approach to development.
It seems that way. The sources explicitly say C9 architects complete market ecosystems engineered for leadership.
Wow. Ecosystems.
Yeah.
Not just apps.
Right. It's about the whole platform's potential in the market.
Okay, so pulling it all together then. The sources lay out the benefits of custom development, specifically with C9, and always through that Australian lens.
Yeah, there's literally a section called the C9 Advantage. It summarizes the key points for you.
Like what?
Things we've touched on. Australian customization, having a local expert team here, end-to-end services, the Australian user experience focus.
Ongoing Australian support and maintenance.
Proven Australian results, they emphasize their track record and client loyalty here.
An exceptional experience for Australian partners, and an Australian customer-first mindset. It's very consistently focused.
Absolutely. And the sources also briefly touch on some general SaaS points, probably from an FAQ section.
Just the basics.
Yeah, the usual benefits. Potential cost savings over traditional software, scalability, accessibility from anywhere.
And the things you need to think about when going the SaaS route.
Key considerations mentioned are security, scalability, which, their architectures aim to address.
Right.
And the fact that the provider, like C9 in this case, handles the updates and maintenance, which can be a big plus.
And they back this up with experience. Do the sources give any numbers?
They do. 350 plus projects completed over 18 plus years in business.
That's quite a history. Suggests they've seen a lot.
Definitely implies a depth of experience.
So if this sounds interesting to you, how do you actually engage with them, according to the sources?
They mention specific ways to connect. They offer a free product roadmap strategy session
Okay.
and a consultation to discuss potential projects. Seems like a practical first step.
And is their website mentioned?
Yep, it's provided right there. www.c9.com.au. That's c9.com/.a.
Got it. So wrapping up this deep dive, what have we really learned from these C9 sources?
Well, I'd say the standout points are that very strong Australian market focus, the comprehensive services covering the whole life cycle.
And perhaps most distinctively, that strategic approach, going beyond just building features to architecting for market leadership and scalable growth.
Yeah, engineering those market ecosystems we talked about, specifically for the Australian context, it definitely adds a layer of strategic thinking.
It shifts the conversation, doesn't it? From just what should it do to how do we build this to win and scale effectively here.
Exactly.
All right, so to leave you, our listener, with something to think about based on all this, here's a question.
Hmm.
How did this idea, presented in the C9 sources, of building a complete market ecosystem engineered for leadership, how does that change the way you might think about developing your next digital product or SaaS solution for the Australian market?
Does it make you consider the underlying architecture and market strategy differently from the outset?
Something to chew on? It's certainly a compelling concept from the material.
For sure.
Okay, that brings us to the end of this deep dive. Just a reminder, if you're an Australian business owner or a C-level executive and you're looking for Australia's leading custom software, apps, integration, and database developer company,
The website mentioned throughout the sources is www.c9.com.au.
and hey, if you found this useful, please do click that follow button wherever you're listening.
Yeah, and maybe share it with colleagues or contacts who you think could benefit from these insights.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.